Today we're going to talk about analyzing a TDA for text evidence. We've already had some discussion on what text evidence is, and now it's time to take it a step further. So let's review. Text evidence is any information from fiction or nonfiction text that can be used to support ideas, arguments, or opinions. When we cite text evidence, we can directly quote the text or paraphrase it. And in class, we've been focusing on that first chunk, directly quoting the text. We want to use quotation marks, and we want to make sure that we're not changing the author's words. However, today you're going to see some examples of students who have paraphrased it. We use text evidence to prove or support our claim. So let's examine a TDA for use of text evidence. We will look for two specific things. The first one, did the author use text evidence? Can I see examples from the text specifically in their writing? Number two, did the author explain how their text evidence supported their claim? This is important because remember, we need to be able to explain why our text evidence matters. If we can't say why it matters, then it really doesn't make our writing as strong. So let's take a look at the question that the students were trying to answer. In Elephant Talk, the author tells how elephants share information with each other. Explain how elephants use most of their senses to communicate. Write a well-organized response using specific evidence from the passage to support your answer. That first sentence I can see right away that it is just focusing on giving me background information about the text. In Elephant Talk, the author tells how elephants share information with each other. That doesn't give directions, so I know that the students aren't going to focus on doing anything with that first sentence, just background information. The second sentence, explain how elephants use most of their senses to communicate. There we see the directions. This is what the students are supposed to be answering, explaining how elephants use most of their senses to communicate. So I'm going to be looking for evidence of students using their text evidence to explain how elephants use their senses to communicate. So let's take a look. Here's the text that the students have read. Now, I have already read this text. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll just summarize that this passage is about elephants and how they communicate. And they communicate in a couple different ways with sound, with their trunks, and with movement. And they really have a complex form of communication, much more complicated than what you might think. So let's take a look at our first response. It says, in this passage, I learned that when the elephants communicate, they can use body parts. When they spread their ears, that means I'm in charge. There are many different kinds of body parts that they can use to communicate to say something. That's how elephants talk. When they flap their ears, that means I'm happy. Every time they say something, they're saying it with body parts. That's what I learned in this passage. All right, so I'm not going to focus necessarily on whether this person did a good job of explaining how elephants use their senses to communicate, but what I'm just focusing on are those two questions. Did the author use text evidence? When I go back and look at their response, I can see that they said about the elephants spreading their ears to mean I'm in charge. And then they also mentioned how they can use different body parts to communicate. They also specifically mentioned that when they flap their ears, that means they're happy. All right, so did the author use text evidence? I would say yes. There are specific examples that I can see are pulled directly from the text. My second question, did the author explain how their text evidence supported their claim? I would not say that this is true. They did not do a really great job of explaining why it mattered that they used that text evidence. Let's look at our second response. Grumble Stomp, did you elephants can use their five senses in many ways? As you read on, you can find out some interesting ways elephants can their senses to communicate. First, elephants can hear things in amazing ways. What if an elephant wanted to tell another elephant something, but he couldn't see her? Problem solved. That elephant could make a very low noise toward the ground, and the other elephant would use their soles of their feet to hear the message. It's like a phone without a screen. Also, if an elephant spreads their ears, it means I'm in charge. It can also flap its ears. That means he or she is happy. Also, elephants can use their touch to communicate in many different ways. When a mother wants their baby to do something, she can use her smooth, soft trunk. For example, if a mother wanted her baby to know that she cares, she would pat the baby's head. She would also do another action to tell the baby something else. You see, if the baby couldn't feel it, he or she wouldn't know what to do. Next, elephants can use their noses to tell other elephants things. It can make a loud trumpet noise with its trunk if the elephant senses danger. The elephant can also communicate with its gray trunk by lifting it up. This specific action means I'm not moving. These are some ways that elephants communicate with their trunks. In conclusion, elephants can talk in many unique ways. Sometimes they use their trunk, other times they use their ears. Next time you visit a zoo and you see an elephant making a grunt or a rumble, always remember that he or she is communicating. Looking back at our focus questions, did this author use text evidence? Absolutely, yes. If I were to take a highlighter and pair this with my text right in front of me, I would be highlighting all over the place. This person used some specific things like saying I'm in charge, but then they also paraphrased a lot of really great information about the text. Did this author explain how their text evidence supported their claim? I would also say yes, because if you look down here where they said about the baby elephant, they said, you see, if the baby couldn't feel it, he or she wouldn't know what to do. That's where they're explaining why this action of the mother is important. So, now it's your turn. Read the passage and the TDA prompt that I have selected for you. Then you're going to evaluate the 4 student TDAs for text evidence. Good luck. You guys have got this.